Hey there, and welcome to N0A's video podcast, 3 Secrets to Pass Your Private Pilot Checkride. I'm your host, Jason Shepard. I'm constantly flooded with emails about students asking me for my best tip on how to pass your private pilot checkride. Well, today I'm going to put that all to rest and share 3 secrets on how exactly to pass your private pilot checkride. The first one is to know your cross country. When I say know your cross country, I'm talking about the ability to explain it. Specifically, to explain true course, magnetic heading, magnetic course, course heading. How did you come up with these numbers? How did you come to that conclusion and determine that course heading? Your examiner is going to want to know this. So be able to explain things like magnetic heading and course heading. Also, know your frequencies. Not only your frequencies for your airport, but the airport to where you're going. Also, know the airports in between. You know on your cross country, your fictitious cross country is what it really is, there's going to be a diversion because you're only going to go so far on your check ride before your examiner diverts you. So think about possible places where he or she could divert you to. Know the frequencies, know the runway layout and the runway lengths. Because chances are you're going to divert there, and there's a good possibility you could do your landings for your check ride at an airport you've never even been to. So be sure to be really familiar with the airports throughout your area. Also, you need to have a backup plan. By this I mean my student just yesterday actually passed his private pilot check ride, partly because he had a backup plan on his cross country. Let's look at this example. His cross country was actually from the Denellen Airport down to Melbourne, and we're in Florida now. A direct path would have taken him right through Orlando's Class Bravo airspace. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can fly through Class Bravo airspace, that's fine. Don't think your examiner is going to be turned off by the fact that you're going to trudge through some busy airspace. That's fine. But you need to have a backup plan. Let's say Orlando approach controllers were too busy to take us and we couldn't get cleared through Class Bravo airspace. We made a backup plan. We went from Denellen, tracked to the Lakeland VOR, and then went straight across to Melbourne. Now yes, this took us a little bit out of our way and we had to change altitude a little bit to get under the Class Bravo, but it's better than not having that backup plan and our examiner asking us, well, what happened if we got to Orlando and they said, no, we're too busy, we can't take you in our airspace right now. There we are flying around with no backup plan. So it's important. It took a little bit longer, but we planned 2 routes and the examiner was actually quite impressed with us having 2 routes planned out. Okay, the next thing we need to know, it's in our PTS, and this one is a gimme. It's called the Special Emphasis Areas. And what this is this the examiner saying, hey, I'm going to ask you these things. There's a few things that you are guaranteed to know that are going to be on your private pilot check ride. And these can be found on page 5 in your PTS, Special Emphasis Areas. The first one is positive aircraft control. Next, procedures for a positive exchange of flight controls. In other words, who's flying the airplane? Stall spin awareness, collision avoidance, wake turbulence avoidance, land and hold short operations, and on yesterday's check ride, runway incursion and avoidance was a huge thing. We talked about that quite a bit. Controlled flight into terrain, aeronautical decision making, and lastly, checklist usage. You need to consult your checklist. That one's a huge one. I know it's on there last, but it's probably one of the biggest ones. It's great that we know flow checks, and it's even better if you know a flow check for your emergency procedures. But that still doesn't mean you shouldn't consult your checklist. Do your flow check and then go ahead and consult your checklist. The last tip I have for you is to know your FAR aim. I'm not saying know it cover to cover because it's extensive and it tends to be a dry read. Not that I've read it all the way cover to cover. But what you need to do is know your Part 61 requirements. Part 61, what does it take to become a private pilot? What are my limitations and privileges? Part 91, you also need to know the 91 rules of the road. who has the right of way in this situation? What are my supplemental oxygen requirements? What instruments are required for VFR day and VFR night? Some basic ones that you need to know. Now, you also need to know how to navigate through your FAR aim. This means I don't know the answer, so I'm going to go ahead and look it up. Know where to look things up in the FAR aim and be familiar with how to use it. Your examiner has no problem accepting the fact that you don't know everything. He or she doesn't expect you to know everything. So just know how to look it up, especially in the FAR aim. Well, that's my 3 tips for you today. Know your cross country, know your special emphasis areas found in the PTS, and be able to navigate your FAR aim. For more information, you can visit my website at www.m0a.com. And if you haven't got a chance, check out my newest book, Learn to Fly, Pass Your Private Pilot Checkride, for more great tips, techniques, and a full information overload on how to pass your private pilot checkride. Remember, a good pilot is always learning. See ya.
You're on Bravo, you're short of Victor Alpha, you're Beam the Iberian.
For Beam Alitalia on the left there.
Beam Alitalia.